Stuart Swerdlow is a psychic and medical intuitive with a unique background. His family was instrumental in the founding of the Soviet Union, and his great-uncle Yakov was its first president. Even so, his father came to America and joined the U.S. military. Stewart himself had a difficult childhood, where he endured various painful medical experiments and was later brought into the famous Montauk program. Perhaps because of that childhood and his own special psychic skills, he had a strong mental toughness. He was one of the very few participants in that program who emerged with all his memories intact. What he learned at Montauk and through his ET connections is frankly mind-blowing. This is some of the deepest and most interesting material on the big picture of humanity, which is available anywhere. The video is an excerpt from a fascinating interview done by Jimmy Church on February 10th, 2015, for his popular radio show, Fade to Black. If you have limited time and want to hear Stewart explain his cosmology, skip to 30 minutes to hear a description of our solar system's strange history and the origin of human life on planet Earth. And there is more in Mr. Swerdlow's books and on his website, expansions.com. But if you can spare the time, I recommend listening to the whole thing. Fasten your seatbelt and get ready for a mind-blowing hour or so.
It's all going to be okay. I'll never let anything else happen to you.
Yes, right.
Is that what happened?
Yes. That's what the programmers would do, because they would bring you to the brink of death or to the brink of the most severe fear that you could ever imagine, and then they would rescue you from that at the last moment. And then it was kind of a bait and switch, because they became God. That's the God that saved you, not the one in heaven or the religious one that you may have known or heard about, but this person who is your God.
And did it work?
Yes, because whenever I would see that person, I knew, oh, yes, no matter what happens, he'll save me.
Wow. And how do you deal with that as an adult? You know?
Well, I'll tell you, you don't trust anybody. I don't trust anyone anymore.
Right. Oh, man. Because when you watch it the way that, look, Chris didn't hold back in the film.
No.
And he wanted to make sure that it almost could be X-rated. Not X-rated because of the sex, but I mean X-rated because of the content. It is over-the-top truth-telling. And the way that he portrays it in the film, you are right there. And when that guy comes in the room, well, at that point, it's the actor that plays, help me, I'm brain freezing. The director of the project.
Oh, Pruitt.
Yeah, Jack Pruitt.
Yeah. So
Jack Pruitt comes in the room. Was it Jack Pruitt that came into you, or was it just another handler?
He was very aloof, and I can hardly even remember seeing him. It was very, very distant. He did not mingle with us lowly Montauk boys. But he was, he was like Nero playing the violin while Rome burned.
Right, right.
He was like that.
Have you had any contact with Jack Pruitt since Montauk?
No.
Have you tried to reach out to him?
Oh, no. Why would I?
Well, that's my question.
Yeah. No.
So, and what about?
Although I had contact with my programmer.
You have?
He's dead, a long time now, but I had contact with him in the early 90s.
Did he come to you, or did you find him?
I found him through a government agent.
And how did that go?
Actually, he was quite kind to me after.
Were you angry?
Yes and no. I learned a lot from him. I know that he trained other well-known people whom I helped subsequently. And I think he just, he was the Eastern European. And so to him, it was just his work.
His job.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And how did you hold? I mean, you must have had a wave of anger that you were controlling. I don't know how you held back. And of course, you must have asked the question, why me? Why did you do this to me? Did you go there?
Well, I already knew the answer to that. I mean, I knew about my family history. I knew about the alien genetics. I knew that I couldn't be, my memories couldn't be masked. So I was an anomaly, and I was told so. And plus, there was a time when the government put me in federal prison for that.
That's right.
And that is when I met the programmer, so there was not much I could do about it.
Interesting. It seems like it was almost ongoing. When does the nightmare end?
No, because they still trained me while I was in the prison.
Exactly. Let's back up a step here. So that with you had the mind control aspects, and we had the time travel. I want to visit the time travel here in just a bit, but with the mind control program, were you sent on a mission, and did it involve a possible assassination plot? What did it involve, and what did they intend to use you for?
Well, I think that the people who have read my books would know that, Jimmy, because they sent me to the time of Christ.
Right.
And in fact, that is actually depicted in the film, in a kind of a sideways kind of way, if you remember that.
Yes.
And it wasn't exactly like that. I don't know if you want me to go into that or not.
Well, we can. Well, let's do that. I consider that the time travel aspect of it. What I'm trying to get to is, if did they ever send you out on a mission? Was there anything intentional done, or would you even remember it if they did?
Yes, I wrote about them. Yes.
Okay. Well, can you share one with us?
Well, do you want me to go to the one?
Well,
the film?
Yes. Well, we could do that. Sure. And my question with that, actually, and I'm going to let you go ahead and tell the story, but I'm going to jump ahead. Was it like a DNA test? Was it?
Oh.
What was the intention of it?
Well, you're kind of right. I mean, it didn't involve the DNA. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'll let you run with it. Go ahead.
Well, and I know it's going to sound odd to the listeners who have not heard this story, but it happened twice. In Montauk, they had alien technology, and they learned that every point in time and space has a unique set of vibration and coordinate. And if you know the set of coordinates and vibration to where you want to go, and you match that with a person, place, or thing, there is an instant connection, and that's how time travel and space travel can occur. And so they had the coordinates for the time of Christ, because the aliens had told them and actually gave them a crystalline type, looks like a pencil, but it's crystal, and there was a film or a video of Christ, the crucifixion, and it explained that he wasn't really crucified. It was a staged event. And that's a whole nother story. And in fact, in my new book, True World History, I've written about that. But the people at Montauk wanted to send a team back to assassinate him, so that in effect Christianity would not exist in the current time the way it exists now. And so they sent me back with a pistol, and I was supposed to find Christ in Jerusalem and shoot him. And then they said they would bring me back. And so I got to where they told me he was, and there were these huge, I guess, stone or marble white steps going up to what looked like a very big Roman-type looking building. And the Christ figure came out and stood on the top, and I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I raised the gun, and I couldn't do it, and I ran away. And they brought me back.
What did he look like, Stewart?
He was about 5'10", auburn hair, green eyes. I would say kind of a light tan skin, thin but well built.
Did you know who he was right away?
Yes. Oh yes, I know who it was.
Any communication?
No, he just looked at me, and I said, "Okay, I should not be doing this."
And you ran away.
And I ran.
How old were you?
Oh, I must have been 15, 16.
Lesson learned?
Well, they sent me back.
Right.
Because I was punished for that.
And what happened?
And so then they sent me back, and they said, this time we're going to send you to while he's on the cross. We need his blood because we're going to clone him. And so they sent me back with this little vial. And if any of you know people who unfortunately have diabetes and need to take their blood test, like this, it was like that.
Right.
Little tiny. And he was on the cross, and I went up to him. And he had, of course, no shoes or anything on. And I jabbed his toe and took the blood sample.
Was he still alive?
Yes, he was alive for many years after that.
Did he? Okay. Let's come back to that. Did he see you when you came up to the cross?
Yes.
And did he recognize you?
Yes.
Do you think that he recognized you?
I know he did.
And did you look into his eyes?
I tried not to.
But
I
you
looked at
did?
his feet.
Okay.
And I just did it and left.
You did it and left. Mission accomplished. How did you...
Because I figured, okay, it's just a drop of blood. I didn't really... it's not a cross, okay? I didn't really hurt him.
Right.
And by the way it's depicted is not the way it really was.
Great minds think alike, Stewart. You knew what I was going to ask. Okay.
I'm reading your mind, and quite frankly, it's scary, Jay.
Okay. So who was there at the cross when you went up? Were you alone?
I was alone. There were people around. It was kind of like a raised field, if you will, or mountain. There were many other crosses with people on it. And there was like a rock border, almost like the kind you put around the garden almost. And people were behind those rocks praying on their knees, crying, sleeping. It was kind of like early morning. And so I just went up there. Because you could go up there.
So nobody stopped you?
No.
Now, I have to ask you this, though. What were you dressed in? Did they period dress you, or were you wearing 1970s bell-bottoms?
No. They dress you in appropriate clothing to where you're going.
Okay.
As long as they know where you're going, because some people wound up in other places, and that was not pretty.
What about, now, you speak 10 languages, but do you speak Aramaic?
I spoke Hebrew.
You spoke Hebrew?
Yeah, even though... In those days, the people, the population spoke Aramaic, but in the religious temples, they spoke Hebrew.
How did you know, if you don't mind me asking, this is two guys talking. This is a guy question. How did you know where you were going? Or did they deposit you close to the cross and you knew where you were at?
They knew all the coordinates. They knew where everything was. Remember, they got a lot of information from alien records, if you will,
right,
that documented all of this.
And how did you appear without freaking everybody out?
I would go through this mirror-like contraption, for lack of a better term. And once I went through, I was just on the street there, or someplace else. I was just like a normal scene.
And nobody was surprised, or do you think you just kind of faded into the scene?
Nobody said, "Hey, look, someone just appeared." I was just there.
Right.
And no one paid attention.
You could have maybe absorbed into somebody else's body that was already standing there.
No, this was actually a physical transmission.
So you definitely knew it was you. I mean, like you could look at your hands and say,
yes.
okay, this is me.
Yes.
But you were able to speak Hebrew. Did you talk to anybody? Did you go up to anybody? Or
when we go, or I should say when we did go on these missions, one of the rules is you don't speak unless absolutely necessary.
Exactly. So no communication. You were cool, and you. How close? I guess what. Man, I'm just going to talk to you like you're sitting right here. Was the cross right in front of you, and how much time did you spend walking up? How long were you there?
Seconds.
Seconds.
Yeah.
And then after, how did they know the mission was complete in order to draw you back to present time?
They have the ability to watch the scene as it happens.
And how was that? Was it?
That's some kind of alien technology again, where you can tune into the frequency of the specific point in time and space.
Interesting.
And observe it.
So when you got back, now you've completed the mission. You've got your syringe or vial, or
it was a vial.
Yeah, the sample of blood. What happened next?
Well, then they sent me to the surface of Mars to hand it over to one of the psychics from the Montauk Project to be used in the cloning process.
That was instantaneous, like the same day, the same moment?
It was very shortly thereafter.
Right. And so what did they do? Were you able to see what they were doing with the blood, or did you just come back to Earth and...
Yeah. I met the person on the surface, which, by the way, Mars is not like what they tell you it is.
Right.
And there's an underground area, and there's many different civilizations that have a piece of Mars, by the way. And they cloned Christ there, and they are using that body for a staged second coming.
Interesting. Last night we had Dr. Angela Smith on the show. She's a remote viewer. Mm-hmm. And she, in one of her projects, and I can talk about this because she was on the show last night and shared this with us, she said that she remote viewed Mars, went to Mars, and she encountered an ET species that was there and that lived underground. And she described them as a different shade of gray, but a gray race or species. Is that what you experienced? Did you see anything like that?
There are several civilizations, well, I shouldn't say civilizations, bases from different civilizations in Mars. So there's more than one.
Yep, she said everything was underground, and she said that she did talk to them about some of the anomalies that have been showing up in images here on, from different probes that were sent to Mars. And one of the comments that she made, I'm just wondering if you've heard anything about this or experienced this. She said that the probes that we were sending to Mars, I'm not making this up, that they thought that they were gifts. They literally would go out and gather them and bring them underground, and that they thought that they were gifts, that they didn't know that they were probes. Did you experience or see anything or hear anything like that?
No, the beings that are there know what the heck they're doing.
Okay.
And they consider humans to be very low level.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
In what respect?
Well, they can refer to humans as containers.
Like tools?
Like containers to be filled up and emptied out as needed.
For what purpose? Wow, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. What purpose?
Okay, back to Montauk. Now, with everybody that was there, especially, Al and Preston in the film, do you remember Al and Preston being there when you were there?
Again, I have to tell you, I was a child.
Right.
And so I knew by visual sight these people, who they were at the time, I didn't know. I just knew that they were above me.
One of the interesting things with Al and Preston and yourself, and you guys sharing these experiences, all of them are nearly identical. The description of Montauk, the chair, the room, the computers, the way that everything worked. No contact with anybody before, not only before the film, but let's say before the 1990s, because all the experiences are the same, and they're frightening because of the level of detail that's involved, not only from you, but from Al and from Preston. Again, the truth is always in the details, and everything is identical. How do you, you explain it, because you can explain it away because it all happened, but also nobody ever communicated with each other, and you guys never actually have met in real life?
Oh, yes, I've met them.
Well, I don't mean, I mean during the experiences.
Oh, during the experiences, no, because remember, we were not allowed to have relationships with anyone. We were not allowed to have any emotional ties or contacts because you had to be detached. You know, they were children you would see one day, and next day they were gone because they were dead.
Right.
So you were not encouraged to have any kind of interaction unless you were commanded to.
Any clues as to where the bodies are? Do you have any idea? I know you've been asked that, but
and I talk about it in the film.
Right.
And so, you know, I had nothing to do with the disposal of those bodies, but I had been told that some of them were placed in an underground area, and lime was thrown on them to decompose them so nothing would be left. I was also told some were just dumped in the ocean, and I was also told some were just burned.
One of the things that I look at with Montauk, it's kind of the more frightening aspect of it. It's all bad, but when you're experimenting with time travel and transporting bodies, and somebody's got to be the guinea pig, and somebody's probably not coming back, and somebody is stuck in the past or the future or on another planet.
That's right.
Do you think a lot of that went on?
I know that it did, yeah.
I know that there wasn't any contact, or not a lot of contact, but did you have a relationship, or did you know anybody, like, personally that didn't come back?
I saw people not come back. I didn't know them personally.
How did the crew, you know, Preston Nichols and crew, how were they dealing with that? Did they care?
You would have to ask them that question.
You know what I mean? Was it totally a disconnect?
You know, I knew Al, you know, a number of years before he died, and he was very detached. He was a very unemotional, detached person. So I can see where this was just a job, and, you know, he just did what he thought he had to do. And Preston is, you know, a very different kind of personality. I don't think he's overly emotional about anything either. But really, they should, well, of course, Al is no longer here, but Preston can answer that for himself.
How do you think, where do morals go? You know, how does somebody get so changed? I understand it's your job, but you still have moral decisions as a human being. Where do the morals go?
We were indoctrinated pretty much every time we were there. And we were told that humanity was incapable of taking care of itself or monitoring itself. And so the work that we were doing was actually helping mankind to survive. And so sometimes you have to do things which are difficult in order to succeed in the end goal. And that's what we were told.
Is there any one ET race, Steward, that is okay with humanity? You know, that benevolent that may be our friends?
I get asked that so many, and it offends apparently all the New Age people who think the aliens are love, light, and peace when they are far from it.
Right.
I can only tell you that the really, truly benevolent ones are not here because they don't interfere. The ones who are here have an agenda.
And we're going to get into that agenda now. Let's change gears. This is Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network, bespoke radio for the masses. We are speaking with Steward Swerdlow. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Okay, let's change gears and let's go right there. What is the agenda? And before you answer that, is that agenda tied directly into the Nazis and paperclip and what was going on at Montauk? Is that part of the agenda? And were they holding hands, or are we talking about two different things?
Well, Jimmy, it's thousands of different things because the universe, our galaxy alone, is teeming with civilizations, see? And the Earth, by analogy, is the Afghanistan of our galaxy.
How so? How so?
Because we are considered to be a dangerous, volatile, insecure, immature group that needs to be contained before they do bad things elsewhere.
And okay. Did I cut you off?
No, and we already have, because even back in 1993, 10 years after Montauk ended, there was a U.S. general, and I don't remember his name, who said, we already can go to the stars. We already are going places, see? So we are a tremendous threat. Imagine if ISIS and Al-Qaeda had a huge air force.
Right.
See? So what would the rest of the world do? See? So that's the Earth. The Earth is considered ISIS, and all the ones out there say, we got to stop these people because they're not right. And so, but there's many agendas because there are those who want to use the resources here. There are those who want to make humans into slaves. There are those who want to install their own empire on the Earth. There are those who want to just colonize. I mean, you pick the group, and there's an agenda. I can't tell you there's only one.
Does this reach back as far as the Anunnaki? Are we going back 400,000 years?
No, we're going back millions of years because this Earth was created. It was terraformed. It didn't have the ability for surface life before aliens came here.
And, okay, so when you say that there's thousands of agendas, and I understand exactly where you're going with all of that, are they directly influencing, let's say, Washington, D.C. and Moscow, and the things that we are seeing unfold in front of us? Is that our DNA that is doing that, or is that another DNA and force that is causing world events?
Humans are also aliens here. So our DNA is hybrid. It's not pure anything. See? So to answer your question is yes, but many of these groups consider humans to be part of them because we have those genetics. I can tell you the original, and this is in my books, people know about it, the original group here were reptilians, see? And human beings are a mixture of reptilian and mammalian because there was a synthesis going on. That's why it says in the Bible, let us make man in our image. There's no singular God. It's a plural. It's
right.
Not God. It's a group of beings, see? And that may offend religious people, but the Bible is not to be taken literally.
Well, when you don't say my and you say us and our, that's a... Yes.
And I will tell you that in the Old Testament, every, without exception, reference to God is plural.
Do the aliens, I'm sorry, I was sipping my Starbucks. It's so
That's
bad.
full of poison, you know.
It's so bad to do.
I know it.
It's so bad. Do you drink coffee? You don't drink coffee?
I drink organic black coffee.
Okay. Well, so you do your caffeine injection then.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I apologize for doing that. Drinking on the air, very unprofessional.
Well, I'll try to get over it.
Now, your ability to read DNA. Okay. What exactly does that mean? I want to lead that into where we are today.
Okay, so we're away from the aliens now.
Well, no, are we?
Well, no, because I was explaining about the aliens, and then we went into what I do. So,
well,
I just want to give you the right answer.
And where I'm going with that is our DNA today is. Well, I'm going to let you answer that question, but it was manipulated, millennia ago.
Many. Yes.
That's right, and we haven't really our actions today as a human race, war for one, and anger at our brothers constantly and our neighbors. It seems to be predetermined, and that's where I'm going with that. And okay.
And that's because, and I want to go back to what I was originally stating. This planet, I mean, I could go back very far, but we don't have enough time, and it could be confusing. But I will just say that there were colonists here before the reptilians, and these colonists were insectoid, if you will. They were in the inner Earth, and this was a water planet. Now, there were colonies on Mars, human colonies, and on a planet that no longer exists, that was between Mars and Jupiter, that was called Montauk. Make a long story short, the reptilians sent an ice comet in, kind of flipped Neptune on its axis, pulled the atmosphere off of Mars, caused those people to go inside the planet, exploded Montauk, which is why we have an asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. And then the ice comet kind of went into a revolving swirl with the Earth, which was in the second position from the Sun, and pushed the Earth into the third position to the Sun, polarized the oceans, and created ice caps. And the ice comet became Venus. And when it came close to the Sun, the light of the Sun caused the ice to evaporate and create the cloud cover that's still around Venus. And so the reptilians then drove a vehicle into the solar system and parked it around the Earth. We now know that as the Moon. And from the Moon, they colonized the largest continent that appeared above the water, which has become known as Lemuria. And it was only hundreds of thousands of years later that human or mammalian life came to the Earth. So from the reptilian perspective, they were here first. This is their planet. Humans are the invaders, you see?
Now, going back to the very beginning of our conversation tonight, you had your experiences with E.T. before you were 13 years old. You have contact now as an adult. Is that where this information is coming from?
No.
Where's the information coming from?
The information I just gave you is what we learned at Montauk Project through over a decade of researching linear history on this planet, plus information that was given through various other alien sources, plus information through artifact and remnants of ancient civilizations that were discovered that are not revealed to the public.
With the way the Bible has portrayed the devil and the way that the devil looks and Satan looks, and certainly how he's classically portrayed, is that a reptilian race?
Yes.
Is that what hell is? Am I asking the question right? Am I making sense?
Yes, but I have to give a longer answer.
Okay.
And so when the humans who actually human civilization, the origin is the Lyrian star system, that was attacked by a Draco reptilian, and that's why the humans fanned out through various parts of the galaxy, Mars being one of them, Maldek being another. And then when the Earth became colonizable, even though the reptilians were here, the humans came to the next largest continent, which we now call Atlantis. And they colonized that. And of course, humans or mammalians and reptilians should not be living together in the same spot. So there was war. And it was very destructive, and they decided to make a peace treaty by creating the synthesis of the mammalian and reptilian, which is what we are now. Mankind is the synthesis. That's why we have reptilian brainstem, we have skin that wrinkles and peels, we have a reptilian lymphatic system, and on and on. Human body is a representation of reptilian life.
Do we start off reptilian in the womb?
Yes, and when you watch how a baby, a fetus gestates in the womb, the first 6 weeks, it's the androgynous reptilian, because that's the foundation of the DNA.
And so the change actually happens in the womb. Have there ever been reptilians born where that change hasn't necessarily taken place? Yes, because if by some mix of genetics there's a 50-50 split of mammalian and reptilian, then it depends on what type of soul personality enters the body that will determine the physical manifestation of the DNA. Wow. And would they, if they were born here, or the change didn't take place, I should say, do they go underground?
Well, usually when you have such a high percentage like that, that's kind of an elite group, and they don't really make themselves that public.
Would you be able to recognize a reptilian if you saw one?
I have, yes. Now you have to understand two different things. There are those who can shapeshift between human and reptilian.
Right.
And there are reptilians who cannot shapeshift, but use holographic images around themselves to look human.
And you could recognize one? Or
yes.
could I? I should.
Anyone,
I know.
Yes, can be trained to see this. Yes, of course.
And how would I go about that?
Well, you'd have to open up your mind pattern and your ability. Do the hyperspace work that I teach. Open up your genetic codes. You can do this.
I do want to remind everybody, let me just do this really quick. You can go to expansions.com, Steward's website. You can go directly. It's expansions.com. Also, over at jimmychurchradio.com, all of the links are there. You can click on Steward, click on his name. And, of course, we have a Steward page there, too, as well. And everything is there. I got an email. This is kind of it's a complete right turn, but I don't want to let this get away from us. What do you think of the reasons for the recent rise of Christianity in Russia?
Yes, that is also staged, because what's being planned is a New World religion with this staged second coming of Christ. And you see, what's going on now is a battle between the major Illuminati families for global control, and now that they feel it's within their grasp, they're all fighting with each other to be on top.
Well, I want to ask you about that. When it comes to the Illuminati and the 13 families, and when I bring guests on the show and we talk about this, the Illuminati is there. I don't think any of us are going to dispute that fact. And there's definitely control going on, and there's people pulling puppet strings. We get that. What can you name any of the 13? I mean, is the Rothschilds? Is that one obvious?
They're all listed in my Blue Blood book. It's right there. The whole list is there. So people can go read my Blue Blood, True Blood book. But remember, there's a lot of intermarriage. Below, or I should say associated with the 13 families, is the Committee of 300, which are 300 other families who work in close association with them. But what we also need to remember is there's a 14th family, which is the royal family of Japan, which the other 13 are trying to destroy.
And what's the goal of the Illuminati? Is it money?
Global domination.
Yeah,
control.
Does it come down to money? Is that what it is?
Well, they have all the money. They have the money. They create the money. It's a question of power. And ultimately, what they would like to do is create a new galactic empire using the Earth as its headquarters.
Does the Illuminati go beyond the Middle Ages? Are we talking about going back to Egypt and before?
Mm-hmm. Goes back to Sumer.
It goes back to Sumer?
Yeah.
And my view is this: it has to. The Illuminati isn't some new thing from Bavaria in the 1700s.
No, in 1776, Adam Weishaupt created the Illuminati, and that was the first time it became public. That's when the secret part of it started to become public. That's what his role was.
Somebody just, this is from Michael Anderson, and I find this very interesting, and I'd love your comment on this. When, as far as the reptilians go, was it ever really discussed openly before, say, 1980, 1990? Was there...
By whom?
By anybody. Was there ever any references to it besides, obviously, the Bible? I think the Bible is strongly there.
There were, and there are groups on the Earth who were quite aware of the reptilian presence, but of course, in those days, even now, it's very difficult to discuss that publicly.
What do we do as a human race, and how do you teach to do these changes?
Yes. So I teach work that, first of all, DNA opening exercises. I teach balancing the left and right hemisphere of the brain, opening the pineal gland, deprogramming from the Illuminati mind control that's pervasive globally. I do techniques on that. Release work of mind patterns that are not serving, growing up the child within, connecting to the oversoul and God mind. I have a lot of work that I teach. And now there's no time to waste. Everybody needs to be doing this.
You want to take some phone calls? Sure, absolutely. Let's do it. Let's open up the phone lines. 323-825-5045. 323-825-5045. You can also Skype in, of course, Fade to Black 14. Fade to Black 14, that's the number 14. 323-825-5045. We're on a time delay, about 10 seconds, Stewart, so we'll wait for the phone calls to come in. How do you, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, but when you go through so much drama, I want to use the word horror because it was truly that. How do you find yourself dealing with that every day? Do you ever get past it?
Well, that's a very good question. The imprint is there. I always like to use analogies. When you have a very deep scar, even when it closes up and heals, there's still a scar there. It reminds you of it. And so, yes, every day I have to remember where I came from and that I survived things that most people should not survive. So therefore, whatever I experience now is really easy, and I can surpass anything.
Are you a funny guy? Are you able to have humor?
I have been told I'm hilarious.
It just seems, I don't know how you cannot come out of it, somewhat damaged isn't the right word, but it's something that it's a mountain to overcome that is just huge.
Yes, and it is humor that actually helped me survive. Because if I didn't see the funny side of everything, I wouldn't be here now.
Oh, I meant to ask you this earlier while we're waiting for the calls to start coming in. Have you ever seen objects in the sky? Have you ever had an actual UFO sighting?
Oh, sure.
That wasn't part of everything else?
Well, it is, everything's part of everything.
Well,
else.
yeah, certainly.
But yes, of course, I have seen those things.
Yeah, tell me about it. What have you seen?
Well, the most, well, gosh, one time actually, my family went to a restaurant in Montauk, and we had family guests from England, and we were driving back to our home, and from the back of the car, I could see a light coming off the ocean, and it followed the car all the way home, and when we got out, it was just hovering over the treetops, and I actually ran over to it, and it flew away.
How big was it? What did it look like?
The size of a station wagon, I would say, in those days. Then another time, the weirdest place was Australia, because I was there in the outback, and I was staying with some friends, and they have very, very clear skies because there's no pollution out there. And every night you would stand outside and look up, and it was like a UFO freeway. I mean, every minute there was something flying by, zipping by, stopping, zooming. I'd never seen anything like it.
Interesting. Any cameras? Did you take any cameras, any pictures?
No, I didn't actually.
Isn't that strange? Even with my own experiences that I've seen, no cameras.
Yeah, it's funny because it always happens when you don't have the camera.
It is. Well, you know what though? I had a cell phone with me. This one experience didn't even think about. Yeah. And 20 minutes went by as we were watching this with a group of friends, and nobody. There was a bunch of guys on. Nobody took any pictures.
Yeah.
It's really funny how that works. All right, let's start grabbing some phone calls. Hang on, let me hit a button or two. Okay, hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Steward Swerdlow.
Hi, Steward. I waited a while to call in. It's very obvious from our tweet deck here that a lot of people, you've covered a lot of ground, and I was trying to think what I could ask you because I don't have a lot to hang a peg or anything on. So I would like to ask you, just a horrendous life you've had. I mean, this is to be afraid so much of the time. I commend you for your bravery. But I guess I want to ask you about Montauk itself. If I had not seen the pre-screening of the film, again, I wouldn't have anything to hold on to. I need a point of reference. So I wanted to ask you a few things about that. For example, how much of this that you have experienced, I mean, you're telling me about what you think the agenda was for all these people, but for you to go through it, you say you were not beaten, you were given drugs, were you, and were there any females? I don't hear about any girls being abducted.
Yes. Actually, I was beaten. I don't know if I made that clear. I was horrendously beaten, both by hand and by object. So that did happen.
Broken bones?
I fractured some things, yes. You mentioned no females. Correct. When there is mind control and programming, male and female have different energies. Male energy projects out. Female energy absorbs in. So if they try to work with a female, the female will absorb the energy and distort the programming. So when you work with male, it enhances and boosts the programming, and that's why they work mostly with males. Females were used in sexual magic ritual and in breeding experiments.
Well, that's what I wanted to get into because I have met people, women who are on the street or women who are heavily involved in the sex industry, and I have read things about them possibly being programmed to just that sexuality is not a big thing for them. It's a kind of a service or a spiritual thing. And when Anton LaVey was in the Bay Area practicing things, I got the feeling that a lot of the people that were attracted to him were attracted to that kind of energy. And they say that a lot of these women that are ended up using to service, people high in the power structure, high up the pyramid.
Yes, that's correct. And you're correct that the sex in the ritual has nothing to do with desire. It has to do with an energetic formula. So
a power exchange.
Yes, and sometimes actually a power booster for a particular event or time period. There's many different reasons or formulas that they can use.
Well, it's also amazing. Now, were you drugged? I mean, I came up in an era when there was a lot of psychedelics being introduced into Western culture. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that there was a heavy use of these? For example, like the gentleman that wrote about it, Ken Kesey, said that he was used for LSD experiments.
Yes, they used a lot of that. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Dino.
You seem very grounded, and I have a lot more to ask. We're going to have you on again so we can pick your experiences apart some more.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Dino. And he actually raises another question that I meant to get into earlier, which is there religion when it comes to ET?
A very good question, Jimmy. You have very good questions tonight.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You must have taken a question class. But yes, many of them have let's say, spiritual belief system rather than religious. They don't believe in a religion as we believe on Earth. They believe that God is everything and in everything, and that there is no need to do worship because it's already in you.
Interesting. And do they look at a creator? Do they have a creator? And
yeah, well, to them, all of existence is the creator. In other words, all that is, all the universe, not just this universe, but all the parallel universes, the infinite ones, all part of the same, yeah.
And what about, and we talked about this a little bit, and what about, Jesus and Christianity? Mm-hmm. Was any of that revealed?
Yes, they claim, there are three groups in conjunction that claim that they created him in order to steer humanity in a certain direction.
Do you feel that E.T., or when I say E.T., I'm using that the broadest sense of a stroke of a pen, were they honest, telling the truth?
Mostly not. And when I say that, when they told us their intention, we found out very often it was not so. They would not tell us where they came from because they didn't want us to go there.
Right.
So we had to get the ability. So a lot of what they said, we had to analyze and figure it out. That's what part of the Montauk project was about, actually, is to like a litmus test of some of this information.
Hi, Michael. You are live right now. Say hi to Steward.
Hi, Stewart. How are you doing this evening?
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing great. I have just kind of a weird question, and it ties a little bit into the biblical aspect. When you went back and saw Jesus, how did they prepare you for that? For not to catch diseases, to get sick? I mean, going so far back when viruses were different, did they just pump you up with a bunch of shots, or how? I'll take the answer off the air, but how do they prepare your body to not come back with leprosy or something?
Great question. Thank you, Michael.
It's a very good question, and I will tell you, when we went through what I call the mirror, the surface of the vortex to go through, that kind of purges the body. It changes the calibration of the body. And when you step out into the new environment, your body adapts to that automatically because your vibrational field is matching to that. But the good point there is, human body is not really designed to do that. And that's why so many of us died or got very sick. And as I mentioned, I had Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, I got blind. There's many side effects that were not pleasant from this experience.
Did anybody ever come back with any diseases?
Not that I remember. I had never seen or heard of an incident where someone came back with a disease.
That, obviously we go to foreign countries, you get inoculated for whatever. And going back, there must have been some crazy chance of you, just the common cold, something from today that we can fight off maybe would have really messed things up back then.
What I recall as far as that is concerned, the electromagnetic frequencies that you pass through basically killed anything in your body that, even the good cells. It was kind of like a radiation. So I don't think any disease got through either way.
What was your ability after all of this? Each event happened. Were you able to remember it the next day, or did these memories come back as you started to grow up?
No, I remembered them consistently and contiguously.
Did you think you were dreaming?
Sometimes I did. Sometimes I wished I was.
Yeah, and I'm not being facetious, but, when you have these extraordinary events, you must have woken up the next day and had to ask yourself, was this a dream or was this real?
Well, I would have done that except for the evidence. For example, the sheets or the covers of my bed would be across the room.
Sure.
I would be naked. I would have marks on my body. I'd be bleeding. I'd have scrapes. They would be evidence that it really happened.
Were you, this is just a funny question. Did you ever bring back anything, a souvenir?
Oh, you were never allowed to do that.
Yeah, but did you sneak something in your pocket?
You were naked when you went in and out.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
So you couldn't even be tempted.
Well, they knew all the tricks, believe me.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's the way my mind works. If I was out there, I would walk past something and sneak it in my pocket, but you couldn't do it.
Well, if you ever came to my house, I'm checking you before you leave.
Yeah. Are you coming out to California anytime soon?
I have no plans. I used to work there, but right now I don't have any plans.
Are you speaking anywhere?
Yes, a lot of places. You want to know where?
Absolutely.
Well, actually, February I'm going to Prague, Czech Republic, to make another movie about my Jew world history book. Then I'm going to Wrocław, Poland, to do a huge seminar and television show there. Then I'll be in Vienna doing a seminar.
Oh, man.
Then I'm making a quick stop in Moscow and Hong Kong, and then Taipei, where I'm doing another big seminar. And then I'll be in Seoul, South Korea, and then I come back.
Let's grab one more call before we wrap up tonight. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Stewart.
Hey, Stewart. This is Jeff here in Orlando, Florida.
Hi, Jeff.
I have a question about the alien disclosure.
Okay. Hey, Jeff, turn down the radio in the background. I can tell it's messing with your speech.
Okay.
Quickly. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Stewart. I have a question about the alien disclosure. As you probably know, Stephen Bassett is in the process of trying to get congressional hearings for that purpose. Do you feel at this time that all that you've been through and discussions with these alien species, is there ever going to be any possibility, does it make any sense from their perspective or yours that the government will ever reveal anything to the masses based on what you're saying? Some of it is pretty frightening.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a little bit of an answer for that because we are in the process right now of seeing the staged alien invasion scenario being played out, which is why the government is saying there are these Earth-like planets out there and that there's, possible contact here in your lifetime. They're preparing you for a staged invasion. So to answer your question, the truth, no. You're not ever going to know the truth the way it really is. You'll only know what the government wants you to know. There are many alien groups who want their presence to be known and have even threatened the government that if you don't tell them, we will. But these have become what they call enemy operatives, and the Air Force is even told to shoot on sight when they see those particular craft. So it's quite a mess out there. But what you're seeing on the news now is the preparation or the beginnings of the staged alien invasion information.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. You know, and he raises a really good point, and that is when it comes to what we see in the mass media, and it seems like it's getting trickled down, not only from Hollywood and from Washington, D.C., but the Vatican and the way that they're, you know, recognizing the possibility of, you know, alien life, that it's happening right in front of us. What is it that they're, I'm not worried about ET, but what is it that, why would they care at this point? Isn't it to their advantage to just get this out of the way and moving forward?
You mean the government?
Yes.
In order to do that, they would have to admit that they've lied for 60 years, and they're not going to do that.
Well, you know, just like with your parents, eventually you got to admit to the lie when you wrecked the car when you were 15, you know, that kind of thing. Get it out of the way. It may not seem like a pleasant experience to go through, but, you know, you're going to have to do it sooner or later.
Well, they don't feel that way because their analysis of the situation, and this goes back even to the 50s, they decided that such a revelation would undermine the government, the economy, religion, every facet of civilization. So they're not going to do it.
Okay, one last call. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Steward Swerdlow.
Hi, Stewart. This is
Hello.
Mark from Oregon. This is kind of a tough question, and I know these kind of questions are hard to answer, Stewart. But you were tortured and beaten up badly, broken down, and you had your mind compartmentalized so that programming could be placed there.
Of course it was.
And I wondered how you came to really break down that programming, and to what, you know, do you feel like to some extent there's still programming in there that you haven't discovered yet?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and if someone says to you that they're totally deprogrammed, that's a red flag. You know, I admit I have a programming. However, I've been working on it for 25 years, and I think I have a good handle on my triggers and my functions, and I've merged a lot of it out and fleshed it out through my techniques. But when I was, shall we say, a guest of the government in the early 90s, they actually deprogrammed me with their own methods then, because they wanted to see what the results would be on a person such as myself. And so I took those protocols and I combined it with what I learned about hyperspace energy and connecting to the God mind within. And I developed my own protocols, which are less invasive or hostile, and allow people to do that for themselves instead of having anyone do it to you.
Great question, Mark. Thank you so much. Okay, now these are two fun questions. We got all the serious stuff out of the way. Can we just have some fun now?
A few things.
Okay. Did they ever reveal any past famous UFO incidents as being real and actual, such as Roswell?
Yeah, that was a real one.
What did they say about that?
Well, they said, well, I mean, the official story, of course, you know, is a weather balloon, and that's not true.
Right.
And there were actually 3 vehicles, not one, that crashed. And there were at least 2 living entities. The others had been killed. And a lot of the technology from those vehicles are what we're using today in our kitchens and appliances and all kinds of and computers came from there.
So were the 3 craft from the same?
Yes.
They were the same.
For that particular crash. But people also need to realize that was Roswell. There was also a crash in Socorro, New Mexico.
Right.
One in Aztec. There was one in Mexico. There was one in 1952 in Svalbard under Norwegian territory. There were crashes in the Soviet Union, Germany. I mean, they happened all over.
And what about, on the same vein, the nuclear missile silos that are being monitored? Is that us or them?
No, that's the aliens have been very upset about nuclear testing on the Earth, and they have sabotaged it a lot.
Has, again, right along the same vein, since 1947, it seems that we haven't had any nuclear exchanges and offensive use of weapons. Mm-hmm. Is that direct ET influence?
From what I know, since the late 1950s until I'd say the 1990s, there have been 3 incidences where nuclear war has actually been stopped by alien intervention. Not because they cared about the deaths of millions of people, but because it affected them.
Interesting. And it seems obvious. You know, there's a reason why we haven't used any nuclear weapons. I mean, it's kind of obvious, and we were right on the brink so many times, including today.
Yes, that's correct.
Now, have you had any experiences with any government interference of late?
Wait, let me stop laughing.
I told you we're going to have some fun.
Yeah, that was funny because that's like every day of my life. Share
that with us. What happens?
Oh, well, let's see. The phones will go dead during a consultation. The computers will go dead. There'll be missing mail. You can hear the tapping in on the phone lines. There are weird things going on in the house, light bulbs exploding, cell phones going out. I mean, you name it.
Have you ever had a strange phone call?
Are you kidding? I'm on one right now.
It was funny because you warned me. I'll tell everybody right now. Stewart warned me. He goes, Jimmy, I'm telling you right now, man, the show is probably going to get shut down. We're going to blow up your gear. I said, let's bring it, man. It happens every day, every show. We've been pretty free tonight of interference. It hasn't, nothing strange has happened tonight. It's the first show in a long time, actually. But what about surveillance outside of your home? Have you do you get tailed? You know, do you have strange cars and?
Yeah. Oh gosh, yes. Cars going up and down, unmarked vans, people slowing down, taking pictures while I'm outside, and especially when I'm traveling. Like I said, there's always KGB.
Right.
And they don't hide who they are. It's like, here we are.
Do you ever walk up to them with coffee?
Oh, they come to me and say, you are having coffee with us at your break. That does happen.
No kidding.
Oh, yes.
And what do you do? Do you have coffee with them? Do you sit down and talk?
I say, for this one happened in Singapore. I said, well, I really would like to go shopping. We have table downstairs. You have coffee with us now.
No kidding.
I swear.
And what do you guys talk about, Stewart? Seriously.
Oh, what's going on in the world? They told me in 2006, I think it was 2005 or 6, who was the president going to be in 2008, and I didn't believe him, and it came true.
What?
Yes, that's another story, Jimmy.
Oh, man, we've got to have you back. I've had such a great time tonight.
I'm glad.
We barely scratched the surface, and I really wanted to get a little more into the Hollow Earth. We have, you know what? You want to hang for 10 minutes and talk about the Hollow Earth really quick?
Okay.
You know what? I'm going to open it up in a more easy fashion. What is the Hollow Earth?
Can I tell you about how planets are created?
Yes.
Yes. So in planets and solar systems like this, when molten material in the formation of the solar system, molten material is ejected from the star or the sun, and as that molten material flings through space, it spins and starts to cool and goes into a global or round shape. And as it does so, the centrifugal force within the globe then starts to push the material to the sides, and then it pops out through a north and south pole opening, and then the cold of space hardens the inside of this opening and the outside mantle. So we have an outside mantle that's cooled and an inside mantle that's cooled and hardened, and in between the inner and outer mantle is this magma, which is now trapped between the hardened surfaces.
Okay.
And as the two roll around each other, it fractures and creates tectonic plates. But inside there is, again, a little bit of molten material that stays spinning in the middle because of the force of the spin, and that becomes like an inner sun. But it's really not a sun, it's just molten material.
And how many times does that happen with a planet? Can it happen more than once?
Well, Mars is like that. The Earth is like that. Jupiter is not because it's gaseous, and so is Saturn. But Uranus and Neptune are like this as well. Any hardened surface planet is usually like that.
So how many stages of that are inside Earth?
There's just one hollow area inside the Earth.
Okay, there's not two or three.
Well, between the inner and outer mantles, there's this area, like I said, is filled with magma, but there's also connections between the inner and outer mantles. So there's kind of a third layer in between.
Yes. What's the word I want to use? Like floors in a building?
Yeah. I would have to show you on it. Actually, if you go to my videos on this, you'll see it shown on the video.
So would there be, if you look at it like that, is that their, man, I don't want to sound naive, but is that their sun? You know what I mean? Is that their source of energy, and that's how they live?
With the molten material in the yes, of course, yes.
And could they grow plants?
Oh yes, it's very tropical in there because it's always warm.
And the same thing on Mars.
Yes, same thing on Mars, and that's where most of the population went when the ice comet ripped the oceans and atmospheres off of Mars. Many of them went inside.
How far down do you have to go?
Depending on the thickness of the crust at that point, it can be anywhere from 6 miles to 120 miles.
And is this what happened with, again, I don't want to sound naive, but you're the guy. I need the answers. Is that what happened with, say, Lemuria and Atlantis?
Yes, it collapsed into the inner mantle, yes.
And took the population with them, or was there an opening?
Well, some of them escaped into that third in-between area, which created the legends of demons under the earth, or hell. That's where that came from.
Interesting. Where was Lemuria, by the way?
It would have been, well, actually, you're standing on an edge of it right now.
In Burbank?
Yes. Any west of the San Andreas fault line would have been part of Lemuria. And then all of the Pacific Ocean, including Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Hawaii, Philippines, Taiwan, all those areas are the remnants, or what's left above the surface.
Was there a string of islands with Lemuria, or was it just one spot?
No, it was a series over actually thousands of years.
Right.
And at the end, the Atlanteans had equipment that disturbed the geomagnetic force of the Earth and caused the upper crust to collapse in and sunk the continent.
That's fascinating.
But guess what? It's parts of it coming back up.
Where?
Hawaii, off the coast of Australia, and quite honestly, it's not good news for California.
You know what? We're going to get to another subject here in a second. I'm wondering if you know about it. Did you hear about the island that just popped up with the volcano?
Yeah, near Tonga.
Yes, near Tonga.
Yeah, that's part of what's going on.
Yeah, interesting.
There are parts of the ocean floor off the coast of Australia that have been rising as much as 12 feet per day.
Now, I didn't talk to you about this before, and I'm hoping you're going to go right where I need you to go right now. We did a discovery. We were part of a discovery that off of the Malibu coast, the Malibu underwater base.
Yes.
Did you read about that?
Well, I know about it.
Okay. Well, okay. Fantastic. What do you when we first published the images, what did you think you were seeing?
Okay. That whole region, even under the Catalina Islands, there's a huge base there, yes?
Yes.
And the reason they have a base there is because the continental shelf at this location under California is kind of propped up by stilts or rock poles, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, it's starting to collapse, and the government has actually evacuated that Malibu and Catalina base. And the reason they're doing that is because something not good is coming to your area.
Did it look, when you first saw it, did you have an aha moment?
Well, nothing surprises me anymore.
Right.
I kind of knew it was there.
Right.
And, I don't know. Should I had a different reaction, maybe?
Yeah, because it's with all of the UFO activity that's been going on off of the California coast forever. It's been going on forever. And everybody has talked about, many researchers have been looking for this undersea base around Catalina, Marina del Rey, Malibu, forever. Couldn't find any evidence of anything. And finally we find it, and we, published as many images as we could and did our depth analysis. But it certainly was validation and confirmation for so many researchers over the years that I think it's the first time where everybody has been able to go, okay, aha, all right, there it is, finally.
Yeah.
And and I guess that's what I'm throwing out. Was that the reaction that you had?
No, I just cannot explain. It's because I know the base is being abandoned, or it has been abandoned, so they don't care who sees it now. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. What is it connected inland anywhere?
Well, the biggest base in your area is in the Mojave, and it starts from the Central Valley, and it goes all the way down into the Mojave, and then goes east towards Las Vegas and the Arizona border. And the government refers to that as a reptilian nest. It's one of the largest reptilian underground areas.
Is it connected out to this entrance?
With tunnels, yes.
Sure.
Tubes. We call it tubes, but it's not part of that. It's a separate facility.
Interesting. Is it connected? Does it go up to Area 51?
Yes, of course. Yes.
Yeah, of course it would make sense.
Yeah.
When you look at where the Malibu entrance is, and with the photography and the imaging that we have presented on the web, when you look directly northeast from the entrance of the base, it goes straight over the Mojave Desert. It goes through all of the naval installations that are there, the naval installations that are on the coast, and of course, in nearly a direct straight line to Area 51. And I just don't find that as being a coincidence. Nobody's going to sell that to me.
All the underground areas are connected with a tube system. They're all connected.
Does it get to the East Coast?
Oh, it goes global. It's global.
Does it get to Montauk?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Steward. Thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. I just had an amazing time. And again, we just scratched the surface. And the invitation is open. And when you're ready to come back, you just let us know.
Well, I appreciate that. And whenever you're ready for me, let me know. Yeah.
Expansions.com is the website. Everybody head straight over there. And if you don't go to